We know Donald Trump enjoys drawing a big crowd, and now he's got one for the history books. Organizers estimate October 18th's No Kings protests, held in more than 2,700 locations across the country, drew more than 7 million people, the largest single-day demonstrations ever mounted against a sitting president. From major cities to small towns, Americans with complaints that spanned the political spectrum showed up united by a single message. This country belongs to the people, not to one man's ambition or to his bank accounts. Trump knew this was coming. He's been embarrassed by the last No Kings protest, which took place on his birthday and the day of his now infamous poorly attended army parade. And yet, in the days leading up to October 18th, Trump and his allies tried everything they could to delegitimize the protest, to dehumanize the protesters, and discourage others from joining them, branding them Marxists and Antifa, calling it the Hate America rally, dismissing millions of ordinary citizens as radical leftists. Imagine that. The very people taking a wrecking ball to American democracy and our shared history are calling the American people unpatriotic for rejecting a would-be king. It makes you wonder if they've even read the very history they want potential citizens to know. Because in case you haven't heard, the administration this week announced that it's making the U.S. citizenship test longer and harder, doubling the number of questions that green card holders must answer correctly. Perhaps Trump and his allies should be taking that exam themselves, because if they did, they would be reminded that this nation was founded quite specifically and for no greater reason than resistance to tyranny. When Stephen Miller took to the podium a few weeks ago at Charlie Kirk's funeral, he used a moment that was meant for mourning, and he turned it into something else entirely. Quote, "We are the storm," he shouted, casting Trump's movement as heirs to ancient warriors and promising to save the civilization, to save the West, his words. I'm loath to draw comparisons to Germany, but sometimes they are spot on, because on February 18th, 1943, the Third Reich's chief propagandist delivered a speech in Berlin titled, "The Storm is Coming." He too invoked a slain comrade. He too promised resurrection, revenge, and a nation reborn. Historians like Jason Stanley and Ruth Ben-Ghiat say the similarities are no accident. They appear to be part of a deliberate strategy, one that seemingly borrows from that German authoritarian playbook. And here's the crucial thing to understand. That propaganda was not just a tool of the government, it was the government. It did not distinguish between policy and propaganda. Trump is obsessed with spectacle. Dramatic videos and social media theatrics depicting himself and his allies as crushing their enemies. Policy is no longer announced in press briefings anymore. It's rolled out online. Deep fake videos, AI images, they're regular features of the President of the United States' social media account on his own platform, by the way, where he announces policy. Propaganda is not just being used to support the Trump presidency. The Trump presidency is propaganda, a round-the-clock performance designed to capture public attention and to manufacture consent. Fiction and deception are what sustain Donald Trump's America. One week, it's Gaza transformed into a Trump-branded luxury resort. The next, it's a glossy ASMR clip of ICE deportation flights, state terror packaged as soothing bedtime content. ASMR, if you don't know the term, refers to a viral trend of this pleasant tingling sensation that some people get from soft sounds like whispering or tapping, for example. And that's how this latest rollout was pitched. The White House posted a video showing immigrants in shackles being loaded onto a deportation flight from Seattle. The clip lingers on handcuffs and chains laid out neatly on the tarmac, accompanied by a caption, ASMR, illegal alien deportation flight. In other words, the White House just repurposed a viral video trend to celebrate the violent removal of human beings, some of whom are children. The Post, as you can imagine, was inundated with criticism. One person wrote in part, quote, "When J.D. Vance argues that illegal immigration enables poverty wages, undermining the purpose of minimum wage, I can get behind that argument. But when you post this, it's just cruel and dehumanizing." Now, as an economics journalist, I, by the way, can't get behind the undermining minimum wage argument. But I do agree with the dehumanizing part, and that's the point. These posts and these ads and these posters are not jokes. They're not trolling. They're an attempt to construct an alternate reality online, a world where Donald Trump's imagined America already exists, where public opinion is not reflected, but it is manufactured. And it's not confined to screens. They want it everywhere, woven into public life, in public spaces. They're even trying to put it in our airports, where Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has instructed the TSA to play a video of herself on repeat at security checkpoints across the country. A taxpayer-funded propaganda reel blaming Democrats for the shutdown and ultimately for any delays that travelers are experiencing. The country's 10 busiest airports, which together account for 35% of all commercial passengers, have refused to air the video. Big Brother knows if you can capture the stage, you can shape the story that follows. Start by pressuring corporate boardrooms. Drape your image on federal buildings to remind people who's really in charge. The Department of Labor hung massive banners 3 stories high featuring Trump's face alongside Theodore Roosevelt's. Massive banners have appeared on 3 government buildings so far, and more are on the way, with some commissioned to measure an astounding 88 feet high. They're also dangling mergers and broadcast licenses before media companies, threatening lawsuits they may never win because the hassle is actually the point. And while all of that is happening, taxpayer money that was once earmarked for PBS and NPR is being funneled into White House Wire, a state-run website designed to mimic journalism while publishing nothing but Donald Trump's talking points. As the historian Ruth Ben-Ghiat notes, dictators don't just seek omnipotence, they seek omnipresence. Their image, their words, their vision, they saturate every screen, every feed, every corner of public life. Reporters who refuse to play along are shut out, while right-wing influencers are ushered into ICE raids and into cabinet meetings, cameras rolling, ready to upload approved footage to millions of followers. Language itself is being weaponized. The Gulf of Mexico has been rechristened the Gulf of America. Critics dismissed as radical left lunatics or Antifa. Federal arts funding being stripped from any program that uses so-called woke language, meaning inclusive language that doesn't begin and end with white people. Understand, this is not just about consolidating power. It's about creating a surveillance state. A reality where Big Brother is everywhere, constantly watching, shaping, and manufacturing America's cultural, societal, and political landscape. The goal of the big picture is to make you feel small because your sense of powerlessness in turn empowers Trump. But they know that power rests on an illusion, on deep fakes, on social media algorithms. Power propped up by propaganda only becomes real if we, the people, co-sign. And here's what's happening. Civil society is not co-signing. As Jason Stanley recently told us, the more aggressive and brazen this administration becomes, the harder civil society pushes back. They're hitting roadblocks everywhere. But you won't see that on Trump's Truth Social feed or on Homeland Security's Instagram page. They won't mention the multiple grand juries from coast to coast rejecting their revenge prosecutions. They've stopped talking about late-night hosts after they failed to get Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air. Here's the larger point. We live in a different world. This is not 1930s Germany. It's 2025 America. And Trump and his allies cannot turn back the clock, try as they might. They cannot erase our interconnectedness with the wider world. They cannot undo pluralism. And in an interconnected democracy, mass manipulation is much, much harder. And we're seeing exactly what resistance looks like on the ground. A Marist poll found that nearly 8 in 10 Americans believe the government has gone too far in restricting free speech. Soon it'll be 10 out of 10, I hope. Quinnipiac polling shows a dramatic mood shift since Trump returned to office. Voters have gone from plus 19 optimistic to minus 10 pessimistic on free speech. Despite its best efforts, this administration does not control the means of communication. Even as they try to dominate the media landscape, Americans are 10 steps ahead of them. They have access to multiple platforms, multiple voices, multiple perspectives. Trump is facing a massive crisis of confidence, and no amount of deep fakes and towering banners and airport propaganda reels and dreams of slapping his face on a $250 bill can erase that reality. As Jason Stanley notes, the public is not bending to this administration. So if you take anything away today, let it be this. Their power only exists with your consent. Their attempts to play Big Brother only work if you co-sign. They only work if they can silence each and every one of us. And more than 7 million people said, "Not in my name, you won't." And you can expect millions more to keep saying no to this would-be king as he intensifies his war on your freedom and your democracy.